Hey Brie,
Hi.
welcome. We're live.
Woohoo. Hi, everybody.
So excited to see you all here. Mm. Well, hello everyone. Official welcomes. My name's Asha, and I work as guide lead in operations here at Mindbloom. And what that means is that I support clients through their programs as a guide, but I also support our guides in supporting their clients and make sure our guides have everything that they need to do their jobs well. And ultimately, our mission is to transform individual lives, to transform the world, to expand consciousness and bring healing through ketamine therapy. So that's what we're here to do for those of you who are new. And with that, Brie, I would love for you to start us off and share a bit about yourself, your journey prior to Mindbloom, and what initially brought you to Mindbloom.
Yeah, so I'm Brie. I am 27 years old and I live in Tennessee. I have been struggling with anxiety ever since I was young. I got diagnosed when I was really early in stages of life, probably like 4 or 5. And I've just been kind of dealing with that for my entire life. And of course, going through changes, I also struggle with depression and all things like that. Um, I've done everything from talk therapy to medication to exercise, meditation, breath work, everything. And I still deep down struggled a little bit with that anxiety inside myself and my depression. And I kind of got to a point in my life with my depression where I would just lay in bed all day. I would lay in bed until I had to go to work. And when I come back and lay into bed, and I was realizing that this is not healthy or okay for me. And I was letting my anxiety consume me and take over my life along with my depression. And I was just scrolling on Instagram one day and I got an ad for Mindbloom and it was talking about ketamine therapy. And I was like, I've never heard of this. What is this interesting thing? And so I did a lot of my own research about like psychedelic therapy as a whole and about ketamine and reading people's testimonies and stories. And I felt so empowered by it and felt so much love for this journey that other people were going on. I was like, I want to start this journey for myself. So that's kind of what got me into the whole ketamine therapy and Mindbloom.
Mm, very cool. Thank you for sharing that piece of your story with us. I know so many of us can relate to feeling that way, and just honoring you
Mm-hmm.
for making that choice to do something to support yourself in that space can be really hard.
Mm-hmm.
So curious about that too. It sounds like you were really excited when you started Mindbloom, but were there any fears or hesitations or anything
Oh
like that?
yeah, definitely. I was very nervous. I mean, the ketamine or psychedelic therapy can seem kind of overwhelming at first, and kind of maybe put you off. Um, but I think it's so important to do your own research too and kind of look into it, get some advice. Um, but I remember my first session, I was so nervous. I started crying in front of my guide about my journey and what I was experiencing and what my intention was. And we kind of just sat there and did a little breath work moment. And she's like, this is going to help you so much. You are the perfect person to try this because you've tried so many other things. And she's like, you just need to ground yourself, be with yourself in that moment. And when I went into did my session, it was the most amazing experience, my first session that I've ever had. So nothing has topped that first one.
Interesting. Well, could you tell us a bit more about that first session? You know, one, what your
Mhm,
intentions were going in, and also
mhm.
what came up for you. That was powerful.
My intentions back then were my intention with Mindbloom just to begin was I just wanted to feel better. I just wanted to be myself. I wanted to be present and in the moment again and not be so overwhelmed with depression and anxiety. And when we were figuring out when I was going to do my first session and setting that intention, my first intention was mostly just self-love for myself. Um, Looking in the mirror, I could never look in the mirror and just appreciate myself for who I was. I was always criticizing myself, whether it be my hair, my skin, how I looked, how I presented myself, how I spoke to people. I was always putting myself down and never appreciating what I had or the life around me. And I think that's what really fed into my depression. And so my first session, my intention was just to find that love for myself again. And my first session was so emotional. Um, I remember I put the eye mask on and I went to lay down. And within a couple minutes, I felt like I was surrounded by this pink purple abyss. And it felt like it was holding me and giving me a hug. Um, and as I hold myself and give myself a hug, and it felt so warm and comforting. And in that moment, I was like, I don't need validation from things around me. I need validation from myself to love myself. And that was such a powerful moment for me in my session that I do remember I was crying during it because I could feel the tears coming down my face. And now from that first session, I tend to speak highly of myself. I am affirmations every morning. I'm more respectful, more forgiving of myself. I've learned to, if I don't meet the goal that I was trying to do that day, that I forgive myself for not meeting that goal and I'm able to move on and try again tomorrow. And I think that's a huge thing for self-love.
Mm. Yeah, really powerful. Thank you for
Mm-hmm.
sharing. That's a really common intention that I think a lot of us have coming to this
Mm-hmm.
medicine, working on ourselves in general. And it's really
Mm-hmm.
beautiful to hear that you experienced that right away and then integrated it with all these things.
Mm-hmm.
Which brings me to my next question about integration.
Mm-hmm.
So, lots of powerful things can come up in the sessions themselves, but oftentimes what's even more important is that time afterwards, right? That conscious reflection on what came up in your intentions.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds like you did some things like, self-love affirmations and, really taking care of yourself in a new way. Did you find that, how did you find that process? Like, was
Mm-hmm.
that a bit easier for you, or did you find it challenging? Like, did you really have to check in and be mindful about it? What did that look like for you?
So definitely at first, the integration process was a little bit difficult for my first couple of sessions. I got so much out of my session and was kind of slightly overwhelmed with what happened and what my mind was trying to learn about what happened and learn about myself. Probably I didn't start integrating properly, as I say, until about maybe my third or fourth session, where those couple days after you do your ketamine therapy, you're in this state of mind, you feel so relaxed, you are more open to things around you, a little bit more open minded. And it was so important for me in my self love journey and this depression anxiety that I was taking that opportunity to set new habits for myself, whether that be wake up in the morning and go on a walk with my dog without headphones and kind of listen to nature around me and experience that moment right then and there. Whether that be doing skincare, like now I wake up every morning and wash my face, and before I go to bed, I do my skincare. And before that was difficult by itself to do because I just wanted to lay in bed all previously to that, or being more mindful of making sure I'm drinking enough water or eating enough food. My integration process wasn't huge life-changing things. It was little things that helped me realize what what is making me to become this new person, this more accepting of myself. So, um, it completely has changed my life. I mean, I still do treatments. I actually have a treatment tomorrow, a session. But just recognizing and doing those little integration things, you're able to build on that and make it bigger and make it more changing for yourself.
Mm. Yeah, I'm really glad you spoke to that. I think that's
Mhm.
a common conception with the medicine and with the integration process that it has to be these huge shifts or these huge
Mhm.
changes. And like you mentioned, more often than not, it's these little conscious changes made over time that create really big results at the end of treatment.
Mhm.
Um,
Yes.
so then in terms of your intentions, your first one was around self-love. Did those
Mhm.
intentions shift or change over the course of your treatment? And if so, what did that look like?
Yeah, definitely. So, um, my whole intention with Mindbloom when I started was I really wanted to decrease my anxiety, obviously, and help treat the depression that I was going through. And I picked self-love for my first one because I felt like it was important to recognize me and loving myself again. And I thought that if I did that first, I could move on to the next thing. So, my next sessions, I think my second one was reducing anxiety at work, learning how to like stand up for myself, put my foot down, kind of thing, speak up, have a voice. um, all of my Not all of your sessions for Mind Bloom are always going to be a 100% perfect, especially if you have a lot of past things that you have to resolve or forgive yourself for. My third session was probably the worst that I've had so far. It was a lot about my past childhood and learning to forgive my parents, forgive myself, that all those things that I went through when I was younger, um, to learn how to be more accepting of myself now. Like those things that I went through have made me who I am as a person now. And even though everybody tells you that, and it's like, well, all your past traumas make you who you are now, you don't really think about it until I didn't really think about it until I had that session. And it showed me that, hey, yes, all this stuff happened to you, but this is how you've grown. This is how you've learned from it. And you don't have to be so upset about it all the time. You can forgive and move on and be a better person. So,
Mm, I love that. So much of, I mean, one, that self-love is really foundational to all these other intentions we might have in life.
Mhm.
That feels really powerful to hear. And yeah, that I'm just really sitting at that self-love piece.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, and how your intentions shifted and evolved, and so many shifts coming through for you. And what would you say are some of like the biggest shifts or changes that you're noticing today? Or in other words, how do you feel today versus on your very first session?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I started Mind Bloom probably like 8 months ago now, and then I was such a different person, and I'm sure people who were close to me could see it too. I was just so down all the time and so upset, and everything got to me, and I was never appreciating things around me or doing anything that made me happy. I was just so overcome with depression at the time that I just didn't care. And Mind Bloom has taught me to care about myself, to give myself that self-love, to appreciate the little things, to do what makes me happy. And those are like my life mottos right now. Do what makes me happy, appreciate the little things, even if that's, again, taking my dog on a walk and listening to nature around me. I'm so involved in that moment and what's happening around me. And I was never like that before. And that's such a huge change to my life now. And I appreciate everything that I do. And I try to be grateful for everything that I have or that I'm doing. It's definitely have changed my mindset, which is super crazy because the depression mindset can be very overwhelming for anyone who's struggled with depression. And just being able to change that mindset and take care of yourself is such a huge thing.
Yeah, it really is. And just having this outlook that, hey, my life is valuable, it's sacred, and I get to be grateful for all these little things and even all these big
Exactly.
things, even all the challenges. Like you mentioned that one of your sessions was really, really tough, and you found
Hmm.
a lot of learning and growth in that. And you also mentioned earlier on that that was about the point where you really started to understand integration.
Right.
So I felt a bit curious about that challenging moment and how that might have shifted your perspective in the challenges or how you
Hmm.
relate to anxiety or depression as it comes up today.
Hmm. So when I first started, the integration process definitely took me a little bit. And at first I was just like kind of feeling down because I was like, maybe this isn't meant for me. Yes, I had an amazing first session and I learned a lot about myself, but the integration process was a little bit difficult and trying to set new habits for myself was a little bit difficult. But as I kept doing my sessions and talking to people around me, or Mindbloom has a wonderful program where you can talk to people about their journey and what they're going through. Once I started talking to other people and realizing what they were doing for integration, and it wasn't always this big step. It wasn't like, I'm going to go out and quit my job or I'm going to buy a new car or something. It was always something small, drinking a glass of water when you wake up in the morning, or just getting up and washing your face. Those little things are such a big part of integration. And I feel like when sometimes with ketamine therapy, people are scared of the integration process. I think if you take it little baby steps at a time, whether that be drink a glass of water in the morning, wash your face, get some toast, make sure you eat. Those are steps to make you feel better overall. And that's great in itself.
Definitely. Thank you
Hmm.
for sharing that.
Yes.
And now being at this point in time and finishing your first set of treatments, what are you feeling excited about in the path ahead?
I, these last couple months have been all about self-love. And as much as I want to continue in my journey with self-love and grow as a person and learn to be more empathetic to others and things like that, I am looking forward, especially with ketamine therapy, to this year just doing things that make me happy. Um, I'm definitely a person where I push a lot of people before myself, and sometimes I'm on the back burner. But as I'm realizing, like, I need to do what's best for me and take those steps, and that's kind of my intentions with these future sessions that I have is how am I gonna grow and learn and be a better person and continue evolving, if we want to use that word. Um, that's what I'm most excited for is just to find the all the happiness in my heart, basically make sure I know I'm happy and well loved and I'm able to spread that love to other people as well.
Mm, that's amazing. I'm really excited for you to continue on that path too.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I received a question that I'd like to speak to.
Mhm.
And Brie, if you have anything to share on this, I'd love for you to speak to it too. But somebody asked, what does integration mean in ketamine therapy? So integration, it can be kind of this elusive term, but it really just means feeling more wholeness from what we experience.
Mm-hmm.
And in psychedelic therapy, we relate that to the experience itself. So it's like making ourselves more whole from the experience that we have, whether it's ketamine or another medicine, or just like a big life experience. We can do integration after grief or loss, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so that process is really looking at what came up from the journey and getting super curious about, like asking yourself, why did this come up for me? How might this relate to my intentions? What does that mean for me moving forward? And how can I really integrate that lesson or that learning into my life?
Mm-hmm.
And Brie mentioned, like, and for example, in her first session, she had this big experience of self-love and just feeling that love for herself that she hadn't felt in a long time. And so her integration process was acting upon that, taking small steps to take care of herself on a day-to-day basis and actually show herself more love. So that's
Mm-hmm.
kind of a concrete example of that. And the integration process can look so different for so many people.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I wanted to speak to that a bit. Brie, do you have any more thoughts on that for that question?
Yeah, integration is different for everybody. It's not like a one size fits all. My first session, like Asha said, was about self-love, and I was trying to reflect that onto myself after my session. But where, like my third or fourth session, where I had more of a negative experience, where I was kind of upset with things that I saw, my integration with that was more reflecting. So, taking the time out of my day to think about my session, whether that be writing stuff down, journaling, learning how can I grow from this. Even though it wasn't the best session like my first one, um, what lessons am I learning through this? And so it's not always going to, my journaling might not fit for somebody else's integration. And integration, like I said before, doesn't have to be all of these giant steps. You can take little steps to do bigger integration processes throughout your journey or to make bigger changes for yourself.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that.
Mhm.
And I think we're coming up on our time here for the live, but also wanted to check in once more with you, Brie. Is there anything else that you want to share with our audience today? Anything you feel is important that we haven't discussed?
I For anyone who's thinking about doing ketamine therapy with Mindbloom, I definitely think you should. This is your sign, as they say, to take the jump. I have anxiety and I was so nervous before I started, and I was so overwhelmed with anxiety before I even started. And I'm so glad that I did start this Mindbloom journey and did ketamine therapy. It has changed my life so much. And I have so much advice and integration practices that I do. I think how much it's changed my life, I think it can definitely change multiple people's lives. And even though that big step to try it and to do your first session can be kind of overwhelming, there are so many people within the Mindbloom community that are so supportive, that are going to be there for you, that are going to walk you through this journey. You're not doing it by yourself. Heck, you could even reach out to me if you wanted to, and we can integrate together. But if you think Mindbloom is the next step for you, I definitely think you should try
What a beautiful invitation. Thank
it.
you, Brie. Um, really powerful hearing your story today. I can see from the comments that so many people benefited from hearing your story. So thank you for the courage to share and for coming on this live, and excited for your path ahead. And thank you to everyone for joining us today. This has been super, super fun. I'm wishing you all the best. Feel free to reach out with any questions.
Yes, bye everybody.